Hello and welcome to Live from Lockdown Library, presented by Bookworm Goa, with your hosts Nayan and Anandita. This is a series of conversations with book and library people where they share their responses to the ongoing global crisis. We're talking social distancing from a community perspective, we're talking access to books and storytelling, but in quarantine. The hope here is to find ways together to reimagine the library, to think of it as a vital, evolving, transcendent space that can both hold and give voice to this moment of intense uncertainty. Presenting live from Lockdown Library.
Hi, I am Nayan, your host for today, and I am a library educator. We are honored to have today a reading ambassador we greatly admire, Arvind Gupta. Arvind Gupta has been working selflessly for many decades, developing and sharing resources online in multiple languages to enable access in our rich and diverse country. Good afternoon, Arvind.
Well, good afternoon, Nan.
Thank you for joining us on Lockdown Library Live. So, Arvind, since the COVID 19 pandemic triggered a lockdown, we have been confined to our homes and the internet. Over the past 7 weeks, we have also witnessed an explosion of online story related content, stories, podcast, webinars, and all sort of other happenings around story. We library educators lived in a world of story related content even in the time before the lockdown. So, this was our normal. What do you think about this sudden abundance of online content in the field of library work?
Well, I think it's to be welcomed because they've always been publishers like Story Weavers, Pratham Books, which have always been online. All their work has been accessible to people, to children across the world, and the effect is that some of their stories are getting translated into 100 languages of the world. Their reach has been tremendous, and but there are many others who have made their content available. For instance, Amar Chitra Katha, which is an iconic organization. Some of the best, comic books have been produced by them. They made 400 Amar Chitra Kathas available for free on their app, and same was with Tinkle. Even the even a government organization like the National Book Trust, which is usually laid back, they made 100 books available for children on their web portal so that they could access them very freely. So I think this free flow of children's books, picture books, is to be most welcomed. And I think COVID brought out the best amongst people. It's like a COVID bonanza. I'm very happy about this because at least children sitting in the confines of their homes can be very safely access these books and read them.
You bring so much positivity every time when we talk to you, and you inspire us in many ways. Arvind, we are also witnessing so many of our library partners, field organization, committed literacy groups, and others engaging in relief work. Often they are the first call organization in their area, or they feel that that is what they must do because this is of urgency and relevance. What do you think about this in light of a vision for libraries?
No, I think, if I put it in a historical context, uh, the 70s was the first time that we had a digital library. The first digital library was Gutenberg.org, brought out by Michael Hartman. And they had a very committed cadre. They scanned over 1,100,000 books and made them accessible online. Their volunteers proofread those books, but they were books which were in the public domain, but they made them accessible. And today, I think the digital uh, accessibility is going to be much more uh, important in the future to come because they're not going to be mass meetings in the next future. Even if the schools start, it is very unlikely that all the children will go to school, maybe just a quarter or one third to maintain social distance, or they may be odd and even days. A child goes to school one day and be at home the next day. So the whole post-COVID scenario would change. And in such a scenario, having great content available would be very, very important. uh, Online, especially in our local languages. There is a plethora of material in English, but I can say of Hindi, I can say of Marathi, many other regional languages, there is very little content. What we try to do for many, many years is try to scan books, um, great children's literature, and put them online, make them accessible to children. And I think this is going to be the future. Make it available free, make it accessible so the children can read them in the confines, in the safety of their home. I think this is going to be the future.
So, as you rightly said, the post COVID 19 scenario is going to be very different. And this is quite a testing time for us in many ways. We are not able to meet children and the community with whom we had such a close bond. And this bears the work that we do down to its basic. It requires us to examine our own vision, an area of work, whom we want to work with, why, how, and such. How does this apply to the work that you have been doing?
No, I think I have had this website. I started this in 2003, so it's been there for 17 years. And every day we would scan books and upload them, scan books and upload them. Wherever we found a good book, it was in the public domain, make it accessible. And slowly this has become a large body of material. And I put everything on the archive.org. Now, this is a visionary organization which was set up by Bruce Trukale 21 years back. He was a digital visionary. He said in history we had this Library of Alexandria, which was the biggest and the finest library, which collected the best books from all over the world, and it got burned down. Today we can do better. We can have a Library of Alexandria in every school, in every village, in every town. And so he set up the archive.org. Today there are 23 million books which are available to anyone. There is no fees, it's freely accessible, and people recognize the great work which Mr. Kale has done, archive.org. Because it's not a fly-by-night operator. It's been there for 21 years. They've worked within the US government regulations, and they make great stuff accessible to people. So I think this is going to be the future. People who clutch to good books, keep it for themselves, I think they are in for a shock. Because the best is to share with them others and make them freely available. I think this is going to be the scenario. I'll tell you something about archive.org. Every year, because they put no ads, they put no commercials, they don't get government grants. So every year for a week or 10 days, they send an appeal to their readers to contribute. This year they wanted $6 million. And within that stipulated time, they collected $8 million. So people respect them for the great work which they do, and they open their hearts when they want to contribute to archive.org. And this is going to be the future trend. Much is going to be accessible. There are, there'll be, you don't have to go for meetings. Much travel has been unnecessary. Why do you wish to travel for a small meeting? You could have a webinar, right? Save on petrol, decrease your carbon footprint. I think this is going to be it. And we can make great stuff available. So on the archive.org, I have put some 10,500 books, and which is in the Indian context. They make a lot more. Many of them in Indian languages, in Marathi, in Hindi, in Telugu, in Tamil, and many people access them. Many people write me letters of thanks that you made them accessible, and I feel very happy about this.
So, you mentioned about archive.org. How lovely to hear from you that such remarkable work has been done. Has any library activity struck you as particularly mention worthy in this time, apart from the one you just mentioned?
Well, I think librarians have generally been, they have been in the world of, hard books, paper books. I think digital thing is not taken off much in India. We have the Digital Library of India, which is government run, government owned. They've done some good work, scanned some good books, but they have not reached to the people at all. There is very little of indexation. There's very little of sorting. So, in the millions of pages which they have scanned, it's very difficult to find out the ones which you want. So I think civic society, some of the big NGOs have to take a lead in this. And I must particularly mention Pratham Books from Bangalore. They've been there for about 18, 20 years, printing books and pretty nondescript books, run-of-the-mill books. But, but 3, 4 years back, there was a gash and they put in place storyweavers.org. And now the key is with the people. Anyone can read that book. Some of them, they mention on their website that the books are getting translated to 200 languages. Google gave them an $8 million award. What a wonderful book. I think this sharing, this opening up of hearts, making things accessible to one and all. Some of the books are getting translated to 10 African languages. Now, some of the NGOs have to learn lessons from this. Because some of the biggest NGOs don't put anything on the web at all. And this COVID times must have hurt them very deeply. They will feel further marginalized. Unless you have a big presence on the web today, you have very little to say because you may be having go downs full of good books, but they're not accessible to anyone. So there are great lessons for everyone to be learned in this pandemic. And I think this would give a spurt to digitization, to making things freely accessible. The best should be accessible free. The other is, this is a great time. We talk about children's literature. I haven't read a good children's book from Nepal or from Sri Lanka or from Pakistan or from Bhutan. They're just one or two countries which have a kind of monopoly on children's books. And regional books, Southeast Asian books for children are nowhere to be seen. There is this great book from Nepal, Adventures of a Nepali Frog. And, no one has ever translated this or published this in India. It's a world classic. So I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this COVID pandemic, and people are going to make their magazines, make their books, especially the ones which are out of print. At least give them a good burial by putting them online, making them accessible. This is the greatest tribute you can do to a book. I think people are going to wake up. It's a great wake-up call for all publishers. All publishers I know, many of them are ringing me up, have been in the dumps. For 50 days, 2 months, they've not been able to sell a book, and they are in the red. They're not able to pay their employees. There is no movement to books. But had they been digital, they would be shining. The only people who are making money right now are people like Amazon, who have this Kindle Unlimited, right? They're smarties. They're making money and making good books available where people can read. I think this is going to be the future.
Yes, this is a very confusing and isolating time. As you also said that many organizations are revisiting their vision and thinking about what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. So what has given you strength and purpose during this time?
Well, I can tell you something from my experience. In the last 2 months, I've never had it so good. Every day, there are so many friends who are sitting at home. They're good people. They write in Marathi, they write in Hindi, they write in Telugu. And just to maintain their own sanity, they have been translating like mad. Every single day, I get 3 or 4 translated children's books in Hindi, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, which I upload. So I would call it as a COVID bonanza. This has never happened in the past, and I'm witnessing it for the first time. Not that it's going to continue, but this period has been a golden period in terms of translations of great children's books into our vernacular languages. And we must give it a fillip. We must strengthen this. There are just about everyone is sitting at home cooped up. So they could be translating a book for their child and making it simultaneously accessible on the web for people. Why not?
So, my last question to you is, we trust many of our listeners are library workers and educators. Do you have a thought or message for them that has been illuminating for you?
Well, I think one is, I think even the library movement, say which are the 100 great books from India for children, and put them online, make them accessible in other languages. I think the librarians or the library workers must also sit, not just setting up libraries, but making things available freely in the local languages to the people. I think it's as important because something is available in Hindi. It's like magic to a village child in a village in UP, or something in Marathi. A child in Maharashtra would be so happy to read in Marathi. So I think we owe, as librarians, as book lovers, to translate some of this stuff and make it accessible online. I think this is what library workers should also do.
As you said, making things available in vernacular and translating them and actually creating a list of 100 good books from Indian publisher and making them available freely on digital platform. Such a good thing that you have mentioned. Thank you, Arvind, for joining us today and sharing some of your views. We really thank you for taking time for the interview and telling us so many things from a historical perspective and from the current perspective as well. How this COVID 19 pandemic is shaping the library sector and shaping the vision for many organizations.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Arvindji, and it was an honor to have you. Thank you, Nayan, for holding this.
This has been an episode of Live from Lockdown Library. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.